And he goes, you know what's going to sound great on this track? And I said, what? He said, saxophone. I was like, hell fuck no. I hate saxophone in rock music. I mean, I like saxophone in Earth, Wind and Fire. I like it in Careless Whisper, you know. I like it in certain places, but never have we had brass in Skunk Anansie. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure about that. But then I was like, that's against the ethos of what we're doing. What we're trying to do is experiment. So I was like, okay, let's try it.
Skin, it is extremely nice for me to see you. I mean, I think my first Skunk Anansie show was somewhere in the mid-90s back in Belgium, where I grew up. You played some cool festivals there, Rock Werchter and Torhout Werchter back in the days. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the painful truth. It's been out now. Usually I interview bands just before an album comes out and they're like super nervous or whatever, even when they're super experienced. Now we are able to look back a little bit on that release. I know that you're very busy. You're going to go on a big crazy tour. We'll talk about that. But have you given yourself permission to take a step back and look back on this crazy, really crazy journey?
I know it's been, you know, as you've spoken to a lot of bands, so it takes a long time to get to this point. And for us, it's taken, I mean, it's 9 years since the last kind of studio album. And I'd say we started working on this 5 years ago, just before COVID. So it's been quite a long journey and a lot of big highs and a lot of really low lows. Yes. So it's really wonderful for it to be out and to be getting just an all around the board positive reaction. I'm going to say this with clarity, but we've never had such a good reaction to an album since the first one, I guess, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, it was kind of less nerve-wracking this time because this is probably the most confident I've been with a Skunk Anansie album ever, because the first ones I had no idea what was going to happen, and it exploded. But this time it's like, yeah, I know this is a good record. Whether everybody else is going to know that, whether everybody else is going to agree with me, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, at this moment, I'm kind of near the end of a 2-week break after the complete madness that was the album kind of release. And yes, I've had a nice big break now, and then we go back to the madness on Wednesday.
Yes, you are. You are going back to the madness. You're going to play everywhere on every festival. It's going to be extremely busy for you. But now that you mentioned the first album, real quick, like, I mean, back in those days, you know, famous for saying, we don't write love songs, we write hate songs. On The Painful Truth, there's a little bit more love that's seeped into Skunk Anansie. I mean, I think you literally say, where's the love on Cheers? Maybe you talk more about love, whether it's there or whether it's the essence of love.
I think there's a little love in there because I think you have to have hope, and the two are kind of intrinsically connected. Right. But I think the lyric actually you pointed out was, where's the love, where's the kindness, where's the love? It's basically talking about the stuff is, where's the love from up above? You know, you gave us idols instead of heroes. It's kind of this idea of like religious people are supposed to be loving and kind and look after everybody. And it feels to me that in the last, you know, year or so, you know, it's religious people seem to be all about hate and all about kind of attacking vulnerable parts of society. So that is actually asking, where's the love? Because what happened to you guys? What happened to everybody? Why are we kind of victimizing people instead of like just accepting people's differences and moving on, you know? So I think there's a lot of that questioning on the album. I mean, I feel like my own personal situation is very loving. You know, I think that, you know, we have a little baby, she's 3.5, and when we close the door to the world, it's just the three of us, you know, having a fantastic old time. But yeah, I think there's a lot of questioning right now. The world is becoming quite a scary place for quite a few people. This kind of mixture of religion and politics historically has never been good.
Right.
It's when you get religious people involved in politics, it's never really ends up well for anybody. So I think that religion, I mean, I was raised in a very religious household, and I think that religion, as I remember it, is about becoming a better person.
Right.
It's about your individual relationship with whoever you claims your God. It's about making yourself a better person. And I think now it's switched to kind of changing everybody else's life and trying to have power over other people, which seems to be the opposite of what a lot of religions really talk about. So that's the kind of man-made thing of it. It's like, that's not what God says, that's what humans do.
Right.
But I just think it's just, I mean, the album asks that question quite a few times. It's not about what is happening, it's about what are we going to do about it, really.
Right.
Because it's up to us. It's up to our reaction and what we're going to do and what we're going to stand for and who we're going to stand with. I mean, that's always been my mantra. Who do I stand? What do I stand for, and who do I stand with? And I think it's about reacting and not letting people get away with it, really, and protecting the most vulnerable parts of our society. We've got to protect everybody, because intrinsically we end up looking after all of us and ourselves, and we have a happier, better world with better, happier people. That's you got to have hope. I say it with a smile on my face because I have hope.
Yeah. Do you see that that mantra also, like, in the Skunk Anansie fan community? Like, you've played in so many places in the world. There are Skunk Anansie fans in a lot of different places, and a lot of different places think differently about different elements of what you talked about. Like, do you see different reactions from your crowd in different parts of the world, or does a Skunk Anansie fan kind of elevate themselves above that no matter where they are?
I mean, I think that, the thing about music is there's a Skunk Anansie fan, but that Skunk Anansie fan's also going to be like a Garbage fan or a Blondie fan. It's like
Right.
Fans like lots of different music. They're kind of fans of music, and I think that the thing about Skunk Anansie is that we draw out all the kind of the crazy or the good people or the different people or diverse people. We draw them out wherever they are in the town that we're playing. So we found that on this album as well, a lot of kids coming back as well. A lot more. It's a very diverse audience, because I think there's a lot of parents who are into music bringing their kids, and sometimes grandparents bringing their whole family. We've had a generational trauma from Skunk Anansie coming to the gig, and that's really wonderful. I mean, I think that our fans come prepared to be involved in a gig. It's not just stand and look. It's like, we want our fans to, to break a sweat, enjoy themselves, have a moment of like 2 hours of just being free from all of the troubles, and, get inspired and get ready to go back to work, and all of those things. I think we draw out proper music fans.
Now, if I put a few things together, what you said, like, people come to get away from all the bullshit for a few hours to get inspired. You also mentioned, in these last 5 years, but even if you look at the last 9 years, you went through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, you said in the beginning of this conversation.
Yes.
A lot happened with the band. People that are closer to the band know some of the hardships that have to be overcome even during the actual production cycle of the band. We obviously had the diagnosis of Cass and the overcoming of that. With an album cycle that took a decent amount of time, how much re-influenced that same process then? That must have been a brutal process to go through. And did you see, the finished product now that we have versus where you started off and what you maybe had in mind at that point? That journey must have been influenced.
100%. I mean, I think that this album was supposed to have come out 4 years ago, straight after COVID. And I think if we had done that, that would have been a big mistake, and it would have been a very, very different sounding album. Because I think stepping back and taking time and re-looking at the music that we wanted to make and how we wanted to make it and who we wanted to make it with deeply changed the sound of the album and deeply changed our attitude towards it. You know, we at times we had Cass and times we didn't have Cass. You know, we didn't really know what was going there, but we realized definitely that Skunk Anansie is like the bedrock of all of our lives. Everything
Right.
that we have been through, you know, and all the good stuff has been a result of being in this band. So, you know, the band became much more of a focus of intent. It became much more of a diamond that we needed to keep shiny and new and look after. Because I think without that, and we have been without that, you know, we took 8 years when we weren't touring with Skunk Anansie. You know, things are just, it's kind of like a new family. You know, the band are kind of like my family. And it's like, you know, we get our fun from it. We get our it's a lot of work. Let's not pretend it's not a lot. It's not work. And sometimes the rewards are great and sometimes the rewards ain't that great. But it's kind of the foundation that we've had, this connection that we've all had in our lives from the ages, you know, we were in our 20s. You know, and I think that especially with Mark now and with Cass, you know, it was this kind of big thing of hope that they had to get themselves healthy for, you know.
Right.
They wanted to get back, you know, Cass was very eager to get back playing bass. You know, he went through a lot of weakness and tiredness and uncertainty in his life. And I think the one thing that kept him going was the fact that he was going to play bass on tour with Skunk Anansie. He's going to make an album. He had all these things to look forward to.
Right.
And these reasons to feel hopeful for. So, and that's the same with Mark, really. Mark's just been watching us, you know, he's been watching the album release. He's not been part of it because he had his operation and he literally just had to stay in bed for a long time. And now he kind of came to a gig. You know, that's only the second time in our career has a band member been outside of a gig watching it, you know, and both times it's been Mark. So that's really hard for him to do, to watch somebody else doing his job. And so he's just been like, I'm fine, I'm going to be fine for these gigs. And everyone's been like, are you sure you're going to be fine? He's like, I'm going to be fine. Stop asking me. So yeah, it's been some real highs, which was the album release, you know, and it doing so well and people been so into it. It made it all really worth it, really, because you know, we have been through a lot. And it's taken a minute to crawl ourselves back into this space. And I'm not just talking the last 5 years. I'm talking like last 15 years. You know, it's taken a minute for us to get back into a place of love for our audience and for, you know, the journalists and for the music industry as a whole. You know, it's been a while. So yeah, it all feels really good right now, and it feels very positive.
There you go. And for somebody who said earlier, like, is it about love? I think you've mentioned the word love 20 times already in the last few minutes. So I feel like there's a lot of love here. Now, you said also,
there's a lot of love for each other. There's definitely a lot of love for each other. And there's a lot of love for making music together. And there's a lot of love for making albums. And then you kind of, you know, I always think that, you know, being in bands like standing on concrete. And you can only kind of affect things or fight for things when you're standing on concrete. When you're standing on quicksand and you have all your problems and the things you've got to deal with in yourself, you're just not going to be able to fight as strong. You're not going to be able to have a lot of clarity in your thought process in terms of what you want to say. That's going to affect and inspire people. So, you know, there has to be a lot of love. Otherwise, there's just no hope, is there?
You know, you worked with David Sitek on this album, and I think you said, or the band said, like, you know, he made us uncomfortable the entire time, and that was needed to push us to become better. Can you make that concrete? Can you give like an example of one of those times where he really pushed you and what that resulted into?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he wasn't deliberately making us uncomfortable. Actually, he made us feel very welcome and very comfortable making music. What was uncomfortable about it was that we didn't really know what we were doing for most of the time, especially the whole beginning process. You know, we knew what we wanted to do, but we didn't know what it was going to sound like. And
Got it.
so we were in this position of creating a brand new sound from a band that had been together 31 years, you know? So, and that's quite a difficult thing to do, because you got to go down paths that you're not comfortable with. You got to just try things until it works. Or if it doesn't work, destroy it and find something else that's going to work. So that's not. I think I had this David Bowie quote in my head that if you feel comfortable making music, you're going in the wrong direction, because I think experimentation and trying new things is not a comfortable position to be in. It's very awkward. But I remember when we were doing an artist, because we have this place in Devon where we write the songs, and then we took a bunch of things we sent a bunch of things. I made these really bad demos, really shit demos, and I sent them to David, and he picked what he thought were the best songs, and that's how we started working. But there was this song called "An Artist is an Artist," and it was love the lyrics, love the song. We all agreed with that. And the first thing David did was take out the riff. There was this riff in the middle of it that was like an artist is an artist, you know. And he just took that out, and it just emptied out all the space. But I loved that riff. And I was like, oh, I don't know if what we're doing is better. And it took a long time before that song started to sound good. And I remember there was this point where we were working on it and beginning to get there. You know, we played drums, we put in some guitar, did some bit of bass. And he goes, you know what's going to sound great on this track? And I said, what? He said, saxophone. I was like, hell fuck no. I hate saxophone in rock music. I mean, I like saxophone in Earth, Wind and Fire. I like it in Careless Whisper, you know. I like it in certain places, but never have we had brass in Skunk Anansie. And I was a bit like, I'm not sure about that. But then I was like, that's against the ethos of what we're doing. What we're trying to do is experiment. So I was like, okay, let's try it. And in my head, I was just really negative about it and really fighting my own self, thinking, oh my God, we're going to have sax on a Skunk Anansie record. And so this guy walks in, he's like a long stream, thin black, all in black, with like long black hair, and looks so fucking cool. And he pulls out his sax, and even the sax looked cool. And then he started playing, and at no point did he play anything kind of melodic or beautiful. He just scratched the fuck out of that sax. And I was looking at him like, wow, that's amazing. And then he did like one or two takes, and then he left. He was such a cool guy. I really loved him. And then David just kind of put his hands on it, and he put the sax with all of these weird like gadgets that he had, and it sounded absolutely amazing. And I turned to him at the end of it and I said, you know what my mantra for this record is going to be? And he said, what? He goes, trust the Dave. Just trust the Dave. And after that, you know, and then there was something missing in the chorus, and I just like, yeah, it needs something in the chorus, but I don't want a big guitarist. I don't want any big, wide, fat going on.
Right.
And then he came back with this little kind of keyboard line, which almost could be like Scooby-Doo or something like that, and it sounded so good. And then after that, I was like, oh, and then when we did that track, everybody was like, and Dave was like, this is it. This is the bar for the rest of the record, and this is what the record's going to sound like. And I was like, yeah, this is it. And that was the moment where everything changed and things began to be a bit more fun, because there was a beginning of a light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
But you know, the rest of it was just like jumping off a cliff into the abyss, you know. So yeah, but it was fun in its kind of. I love to experiment, and I love being in the studio, and it was fun in its kind of magicness. But behind the scenes, I was having so much pressure from management to get it done, you know, because it was taking so much longer. And I was having all this pressure to get it done. And I just became this barrier in the studio. I'm like, no one's going to know how much pressure that I'm under to get this done. Because if I bring that into the studio, it's going to change the dynamic, and it's going to change the vibe. And we're going to end up making a rushed record, which we've done so many times. And I was just kind of like, just trust the Dave, just trust the skin, and it will come together. And it did.
And then now you finally are at the end of that cycle, and here they are rushing you back on this crazy tour. You're playing a million festivals all over the summer. You're leaving in just a few days as we're speaking, which is exciting. A lot of people get to see you and discover a lot of these new songs for the first time probably as well. Just to wrap us up, I know that we're out of time here. You are at this point, I mean, I won't call you a classic rock band at this point, but you've got your legacy. And for a band of your status now, it's always hard to balance this. Okay, we've experimented a lot on new music. We've got everybody coming to your show has a long wish list of songs that they hope you guys will play. That's just the reality. So, and on a festival, you also don't always have all the luxury of playing a 4-hour set, if you will. So for these upcoming shows, what can we expect from Skunk Anansie on stage?
I think obviously, I don't really see it as a classic rock band. I see it as a band that has classic songs.
Exactly.
Because I've discovered that a classic rock band is kind of a band that kind of just plays the classic songs that made them famous in the 80s or the 70s or the 90s. So we're definitely out of that. But at the same time, we have classic songs that I think are amazingly fun to play. But we are promoting a brand new record. I think what's happening now, which is the best position for a band that have been here 30 years can ask for, is that people are coming to hear the classic songs and they're coming to hear the brand new songs that they've just fallen in love with. I definitely do. I've been to a lot of gigs where when an older band or a classic band or a band that have classic songs, when they play those new songs, that's when everyone goes to the bar, rushes to the toilet. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't want to give anyone an excuse to leave the room. So I think what's really wonderful is that we've always kept a high standard with the new songs. You know, our set has never just been a 90s set. We've never done that. You know, we've had records out since 2010, 2009. And those songs are classics too. You know, songs like Margly Boy, I Believed in You, are really kind of up there with Charlie Big Potato and Hedonism. So I think we just play a healthy smattering of songs for a whole career. We concentrate on the ones that we know people love. And in between them, we're going to put brand new songs, which we know people love as well. Because I think that our audience like the fact that they've got new things in there that they like. Mm-hmm. As well as, you know, the ones that they've already fallen in love with. I think that's the nice thing about being around for so long. Is like, you know, you got your winners. Yeah. And then you can kind of put some of the fresh new things that they don't know in between it. And, you know, we've experimented on the last tour that we did, which was an indoor tour. We played some really odd songs that we've never put in a set before. And we didn't play the same set for about 4 weeks. We changed it every single night for the first 4 weeks. And then we finally had a set. We were like, oh, yeah, this is just the winner. We shouldn't change this. This is just perfect. And then we kind of changed some of the new songs. We added new songs as we were going along. I mean, this festival season for us, it's more like, I'm going to be honest, it's more about replenishing the coffers after 5 years of earning no money. You know, like, in COVID, we didn't take any money from the government. We didn't take any money from anyone because we felt that money needed to go towards new artists.
Right. And
struggling, people who were struggling and new artists. We didn't want to take that money, even though, yes, we were struggling, but not in the same way that new bands were struggling. So we just kind of wanted to do it. We started off let's just do a few festivals just to put some money back in the bank so we can have enough to make a record, because we've already started making a new record. Yeah. But it takes, you know, it's not cheap for us to make a record. So
no,
it's more about that. So we're not really putting ourselves out there too much. We're just doing a lot of Italian dates because we only did one Italian date and we are very big there. And then a few kind of dates just to kind of practice those songs live, get up to steam, whatever. But next year is going to be the proper festival season.
Artist is an artist when they want to be an artist, because an narcissistic artist is beautiful. An artist is
If next year is going to be the proper festival season, I think you're playing over 30 or something this summer as well. So
Yeah.
we'll brace ourselves for that. Skin, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your love that you put in everything. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see how everybody's going to respond to all these new songs live. It'll be super fun to see. I wish you guys the best summer tour possible, and I hope to see you on a stage soon myself again, whether that's here in North America or back home in Europe, but that can't come soon enough. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate chatting to you, and I can look forward to playing Toronto.
Yes, come over as quick as possible. You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.